There we go. I had to start with I've got the power. Welcome, everyone to Leadership Live. The
There we
boy,
go.
the way that we stir leaders up with fuel, and boy, we are excited today. I hope that you feel like right now that you've got the power. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't, but we had to pull that song back up, resurrect it from the 1980s, 1990s. We're here with someone that is a titan, and he's interviewed all the titans. He is the guy that, like, if you want to find a human library for selling, it's going to be the guy that we're with today. And listen, as leaders, there's nothing we need more than the ability to sell and help people to make good decisions for themselves. Like, selling is serving. And today, the guests, I hope you have your questions ready. I hope you are ready to write down like stuff that just pops in your brain today, because the guy that's been doing this for decades is going to be serving it up for you today. I am excited to be on with one of my heroes, and I know he's one of yours, Gerhard Gschwandtner. We are welcome to Leadership Live.
Thank you for pronouncing my name. Not many people can do that.
Well, you know,
of Arnold, he has been teaching people Schwarzenegger, and he didn't change his name. I think in his first movie, he had a different name, and he reverted back to the original.
You know, we bend, greatness forces others to change around it, and that's what we're doing with you, Gerhard. We're super pumped. I want to know. We're going to get into some cool stuff. We're going to get into modernizing sales. We're going to get into what we need to get rid of, what we need to do more of. But before we get into that, Gerhard, I want to know your dark and stormy night. I need to know your origin story. No one wakes up and says, I want to just sell or get good at selling.
Right,
Like
right.
it's almost like the accidental profession.
I
How did you
remember
begin in all this? What was your beginning?
in Austria, they have coffee houses, and I remember sitting in this coffee house, and where the newspapers from all over the world, you sip a coffee, you have conversations with people. I was sitting next to somebody who was sitting by himself, and I looked over, and I was curious, and I said, "What do you do?" And he says, "I'm a salesman." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. Tell me more. And what is your secret sauce to winning sales?" And he says, "First secret is I let the customer do the walking." I said, "What does that mean?" And he says, "Well, I organize meetings like this coffee house is next to a hotel. In a hotel, I rented a meeting room, and I got about 30 housewives together, and I'm selling washers and dryers. And I have hands-on exercises, and I get them involved. I have a routine of jokes, and I have a wad of cash." And he pulled out a big roll of bills that was so impressive. And I thought, this guy is like an actor. He's a performer. He's having fun. He's making money. So what's not to like about sales?
So you just fell in love with it. You fell in love with it, and you were all in.
No, not really.
Oh,
There was a role model that I kept in my mind, and I was trained as an accountant, but at the same time, I had to do something with my energy. I was in an amateur theater group, and I enjoyed that, learning a script, and then all of a sudden being a different character and being on stage and getting applause and signing autographs. And I thought, I want to be an actor. Then I tried to find out, how much money do you make as an actor? Not much. And I said, cross that off the list. But I got into a job with a French construction equipment company, and that director, the president of the subsidiary in Salzburg, um, he looked for somebody who could sort of create a liaison between the headquarters in Paris and the subsidiary in Salzburg because they sold construction equipment and salespeople didn't speak French, and I happen to be fluent in French. I love French
Ah,
language, and that's the reason I got hired. And salespeople were struggling with closing deals. And I said, why don't we bring him to the French headquarters? So we put like 20 people on a plane, contractors, and flew him to Paris. Went to the Moulin Rouge at Folie Bergère and had great dinners and then had demonstrations of the equipment um, at headquarters and introduced them to some of the people. And it was so successful that other countries modeled that where, we were a small country and we couldn't get that big machinery because it was too expensive. And so I slid into sales and I helped salespeople in the beginning. And I tried to train them. And my model was to, as an actor, and also I learned how to direct, I thought it would be a cool idea to teach salespeople how to impersonate a professional.
that's awesome. I love it. I'm really curious. How many languages do you speak, and how many did you speak at the time?
Um, well, in school in Austria, we have to learn English is mandatory, and French is elective. So I learned English and French. I know a little Italian. I know a little Spanish. I know how to say thank you in like 10 different languages. And it's really fun when you park a car at, let's say, a Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons. Most of the guys there are from Ethiopia. And if you say "endemena," which is hello in Ethiopian, they give you a big smile, and everybody treats you better.
I love it. That's and you speak the language of sales, the language of influence. That's fun. Speaking of
Yeah.
which, I want to get into some of the people
Well,
you've interviewed.
I would not call that as one of the um, best ideas. Good salespeople are not good influencers. I think that customers don't want to be influenced. They want to be understood.
Ah, yeah. I want tell me more about that. Go like let's take that. I think that a lot of us feel like we have to input so we can convince and wrestle people into a desirable outcome. But you're saying it's different.
Well, a
Tell
lot of
tell me
people
more.
think
Yeah.
that selling is all about performing and being persuasive and being, uh, manipulative, and that's where sales gets a bad name. I think that customers want to be understood. You want to come in with a point of view and test that point of view and transform the sale into a process of co-creation and not
Co-creation.
persuasion.
I love that. Can you I want to jump from that first sales role that you took and it like you just kind of happened your way into that and go into like how selling power was born. Were you just you just wanted to learn, you just wanted to ask all of the experts because I mean you've interviewed the world's top
Right.
experts at sales and selling.
Well,
how did that jump happen?
I moved from this construction equipment job where I was in charge of advertising, public relations, and sales training to become a specialist in sales training. And I created a model called interactive video training where salespeople looked at successful models and then we video role played and helped improve the performance of the sales team. And I happened to be transferred after 2.5 years to the headquarters in Paris. And then I met my wife, and she's American. Then I got transferred to the US subsidiary. And I love being in this country. And I thought this is a land of opportunity. And I would be remiss not to want to start a business because everybody wants to start a business. It's the mecca for entrepreneurs. And I had an idea for a business when I lived in Paris, and everybody says it's too complicated. And I ask around, what would it take to start a sales training business? Do you need to have a certificate or something or government approval? No, you can start it tomorrow, and you don't need nothing. You just maybe need a website at this point. So I created Gerhard Gschwandtner and Associates, a very catchy name, and I offered my services as a sales trainer, and I build custom sales training courses. And in order to launch that, I launched this when my wife had twins. We had twins in the house. We had very little money, and I wanted to run my own business. I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. So I prepared myself by writing articles in industry magazines, and people called me and said, "Could you help us develop a sales training program?" And I said, yes. And after I had like 5 really good prospects, I decided to split and start my business. In the first year, I was lucky enough to make about twice the money I made working for the company.
Oh, love
And
it.
and then my wife and I had a conversation. She said, if you want to see your daughters grow up, maybe you can find something else where you don't have to travel all the time because you're in San Francisco, you're in Detroit, you're in Miami, you're all over the place, and your daughters miss you. And I said, well, I could design a training course. I've designed many of those in France, and I know how to do that. So I created an audiovisual training course called The Languages of Selling, Verbal and Nonverbal Selling Power, developed a leader's guide and 5 workbooks, and I sold it to sales trainers. And in order to grow that business, I created a direct mail piece. It was very successful. I created like 250 courses that were in our townhouse in the basement. And I had college kids and high school kids assembled that sound synchronized slide package and got the coded carousel, created the whole thing. And when that mailing piece went out, I said to my wife, I'm really worried now. And she says, what are you worried about? And I said, that I don't have enough inventory. And she was laughing. She says, you'd be lucky if you sell half of that. And she was right. I sold half of it in
Wow.
with one mailing.
Wow.
And but then I looked at the math and I thought, how do I create a business with that? I need to scale that.
Hmm.
I need to lower the cost. I need to increase sales. So I came up with the idea of creating something that's cheaper to mail than an expensive direct mail piece, which was a newspaper. And I said, why don't we create a newspaper, call it Selling Power, at the time, Personal Selling Power. And I write articles about successful sales and share my best ideas with the audience. And I have a 2-page ad for my course. I send out 25,000 copies, the same amount as the expensive direct mail piece, for half the cost, and achieve the same objective, which was amazing. And then the funny thing happened. Somebody called me from Liberty Mutual in Boston, said, Gerhard, I read this Personal Selling Power newspaper. Can I buy 100 copies? And I said, what are you going to do with it? And he says, well, the articles are so good. I'm in charge of sales training. I want to share it with my sales team. And if they like it, I want to buy 1,000 copies.
Let's
I
go.
said, what? So I had to make up a price. And I created my second edition and I said, if you want to buy extra copies, send me $1, but you have to buy a minimum of 10. And I had group rates. So if you buy 1,000 copies, it's like 55 cents or something like that. And with the second edition, I sold 3,000 copies of that newspaper that I sent out, which was my direct mail piece. And then something else happened is somebody called me and said, I'm Art Barr with American Media, and we have a sales training video and that we sell for $500. can we do a full page ad? How much would you charge?
Oh, now we're in business. Yeah.
Right. So then all of a sudden I thought I need to have a model because I need to have a subscription model. I need to have an advertising, a media kit. I need to ramp up. And I went to the Library of Congress. There was no internet. So I studied what other successful publishing companies did. So I studied the latest home journal, for example, or Forbes magazine, and learned how BC Forbes made a name for himself. He was on a golf course in Long Island and was invited to business meetings, and he realized that the titans of American business were convening in New York once a month in the Waldorf Astoria, and those are the best people in, I mean, the J.D. Rockefeller, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Walter Chrysler, those amazing people were in that meeting, and he started to interview and write down the advice of what they discussed, and that's how he started Forbes magazine. So it clicked, and I said, if I want to create a successful publication, I need to interview successful people because that sells magazines. So, and we gradually morphed that newspaper tabloid into the #1 sales management magazine in the country. We had it on the back seats of United Airlines planes all over the world.
Oh my gosh.
We had a cover story on the Isidore Sharp, the chairman of the Four Seasons, and he called me and he said, "I want to buy 75,000 copies." And I said, "Well, what you going to use them for?" And he says, "Well, we want to put them in every room in every Four Seasons around the world."
Oh my gosh. Let's go. You know what I love about this, Gerhard, is we're watching things lifetime. And listen, leaders, everyone out there, we're all trying to innovate. Like, how do we like with AI or with automation or
Right.
with all of the like near short, whatever, we're all innovating. And I love like you just literally took us through a panorama where you started in one place, and because you weren't addicted or fixated on one way of fulfilling that mission, you were able to see just one more way to make it new. Even the word innovate means to make new, to go inward
Right.
and make new. And it's like these slight adjustments, and it evolved, it developed into that. I love that, and I hope that others are taking what I'm taking from this
Well,
because we're all
and
going
I
there.
also had so many mentors. I had the good fortune of talking to people like Mark Benioff, or we had Richard Branson on the cover. We had Mary Kay
Oh,
Ash
my
on the
favorite.
cover.
Yeah.
We had Jay Leno. It was such a or John Cleese, because we I remember we in Paris we had a very charismatic sales leader. We had a sales force of 1,600 in 41 different countries. And the VP of sales said, we need to become a learning laboratory in the company. We need to learn from everybody. And you can learn from everybody. You can watch somebody shine shoes and observe how they relate to the customer, how they get more tips. And we need to integrate all those lessons that are out there for free and make them integrate that into our approach. And that's what I did. I remember doing the first webinar ever that Salesforce has done. I did with Mark Benioff, and we became friends. And I asked him, how do you think you're going to succeed with Salesforce, an online CRM tool that charges subscriptions instead of buying a CRM package? Like Act had a package, and Goldmine had a package. And I said, Act created Interact, which was an online subscription model like the one that you think about doing at Salesforce, and they had 10,000 subscribers and they shut it down. And Siebel had sales.com that had 10,000 subscribers and they shut it down. And you want to succeed in that with two other companies that already failed.
Yeah.
And he says, they're not innovators. They don't understand marketing. And and Benioff talks about the beginner's mind. What great leaders are doing is they prepare their mindset in a way that allows them to transform. And Benioff shared a story when he took a
Hey,
sabbatical from Oracle. He went to India. He went to an ashram, and one morning he was sitting there with a monk and explaining all the great ideas he had for that subscription-based software company. And he had that vision, and the monk listened and asked, "Are you willing to forget everything you know?" And Mark was stunned, explain. And he says, because if you want to build something new, you need to start from emptiness. Otherwise, you only recreate the past.
oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
innovation does not come from adding more. It comes from letting go of what you know.
That's so good. I really want to, by the way, for those of you who are here, I really want we have Renee who's given us some good feed input, by the way. He loved your whole good salespeople are not influencers. People don't want to be influenced; they want to be understood. And he good input here. Listen, guys, if you have some questions that you want to ask, like the Godfather of sales, like put those in here because we're going to have some time at the end of this to get there. Gerhard, I want you to take me into, listen, you've interviewed like my heroes. Like you've talked to the Richard Bransons, you've talked to the Mary Kay Ashes, you've talked to Robert Cialdini, like anyone that Jeffrey Gitomer. You've interviewed so many. How would you describe the mindset or the trait that you've seen in exceptional leaders? What would you say sets them apart?
Well, you mentioned Richard Branson. He called it living your mission. You want to be a mission-driven machine. You want to understand that life has been given to you, therefore it doesn't owe you anything. You want to give back to the creation that you have received by creating something out of the ordinary.
Wow. So you would say like that's one of the meta codes that you find in leaders is the ability to find mission and live in mission.
Well, just think about how wonderful and miraculous we all are. We have life in within us, and the Greeks say entheos, God within.
Mm-hmm.
And Wayne Dyer looks at that from a different perspective, that we are not human beings that have spiritual abilities. We are spiritual beings in a human form.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, you want to transcend that rigid thinking that is imposed in you through education, and you want to learn about yourself through the thoughts that go through your mind. And the human mind creates about 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative. So we have this prefrontal cortex, which allows us to assume the role of the inner CEO. And as the inner CEO, we can decide what thoughts to let grow and what thoughts to let go.
Mm,
And a
yeah.
visual that drives it home better than what I just said is that your mind is like a garden that has flowers and weeds, and your role as the inner CEO is to water the flowers and stop watering the weeds.
That's so good. I love it. Like there's a weed that I've seen growing in organizations that I want to get to that weed, but we're going to turn the corner towards, I want to say AI, and I think there's a lot of thought pollution. I think there's a lot of things that people are doing where they're relying on systems to do things for them, and they're losing human connectivity. And well, let's tackle that one real quick, Gerhard. When you see right now sales leaders and salespeople, like what would you say like how could we, what are they doing wrong? How can we encourage them to maintain human connection? And what's the value of all that in this AI driven thing where it's almost like the way of the world is to make people feel like they're going to fall behind, so do more, I would say probably garbage work. How can we connect instead of becoming a clone with this AI, Gerhard?
Well, this AI-driven world is confusing a lot of people because the danger is in mistaking automation for connection. And the real opportunity lies in AI handling the routine so humans can elevate the relationship. So sales leaders must train their teams to become what I would call maybe a conversation virtuoso, like you, Donnie. You roll with the flow of ideas that is presented in your interviews, and you want to use AI to get smarter faster, but you need to show up with your heart,
Mm,
with curiosity, with emotional intelligence. That's how you scale trust in the digital world. AI can tee up the swing, but only a human can hit the ball with purpose.
that's so good. It's like as you're saying this, one of the examples, there's someone that I'm working with, and it's like they're they want to connect with specific people. They know they have to create curiosity. That's on them. But they're using AI in a way. They're saying, "Hey, find these great paintings of conquerors." So they got like I forget what the painting of Napoleon is with his hand, in
Right.
his vest, that famous one. And it says, "Great, now take this person's image that I got from Facebook and LinkedIn, paint that over that image, put it on here. We're going to send a framed painting to that person saying this is how they're going to feel like once they take my meeting." And that person is now married the world of AI, which has now empowered their creation. But really, what they're doing is they're using it to make that curiosity, spark curiosity, and have a connection. Is that the realm of where like you see
Yeah,
it playing
I
out,
think
or
that,
like practically?
you think about the world of AI. The world of AI is based on a foundation of data. Now, when it comes to selling, data in itself doesn't have energy. Selling is a transfer of energy, and energy is not in the data, it's in the delivery. It's in the connection, it's in
Mm,
the authenticity, and we cannot automate authenticity.
no, no, nope. Nope, I agree. I'm gonna get some questions here. We've got plenty of good things that you and I are talking about, like so many things my brain is firing off here. And I believe this is the day and the age of the person who can connect. This is the age of the person who can tell stories, the person who can spark curiosity. You now have amplified ability to get out of your own creative block, to go create and go connect. But let's see. The number one, someone says, we've got Renee. If you had to start over again today, Gerhard, what would you do? How would you do it differently? That's kind of
Well,
a
I
fun
think that
question.
the difficulty is that once you are on a path to success, then you develop blind spots for other opportunities. And when I think about Salesforce.com, that company has reinvented itself um, about 5 different times in a major way. Like last year, Dreamforce was planned around an extension of the previous year, but better. And 3 weeks before Dreamforce, Mark Benioff decided to scratch everything and focus more on agentic AI and put them, let go of the speakers, the agenda, and do everything totally new. And that scares people. The new things is scary. And if I had to do things differently, I would have started my business earlier. But I didn't have the confidence. And as somebody who grew up in a very conservative environment, I didn't have good role models other than my grandmother. My grandmother was a waitress who had an illegitimate child and saved her tips to lease a country in and run it and make enough money to buy it. So that was my role model, where she made something out of nothing, really,
Wow.
by serving people, by creating an environment where people have a good time, where she always listened to people, understood their concerns, and she was sort of the broker of ideas, where I said, hey, you just cut down some trees and you don't have a tractor. Why don't you go over to Carl and you can borrow a tractor from him? So she was a problem solver. And that's I found those qualities when I interviewed Mary Kay, and she also was a connector, and she said the old model of selling, like pushing a product, women don't want to be pushed.
Ugh.
They want to be seen. They want to be heard. And she invented this brilliant idea where she said, imagine that every customer has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important.
Ooh. Yeah. It's interesting because your role model had something that was timeless, like
Yeah,
in terms of like let's make a connection. And yeah, and I love this whole Stan Lee. We got to get some mentorship through him. And it's like to my son who's an artist, and it was like make me care. That's his whole thing is make me care.
yeah.
And so what would you say? There's some outdated beliefs probably that salespeople are still clinging to, some outdated ways of seeing things. And so is there anything that you think we need to flush?
I think that what I've learned by interviewing those great leaders, you have to be two things in this world. You have to be a good teacher and you have to be a good student. And as a salesperson, you want to be a student of humanity, of human emotions. You want to be a student of the customer. And you want to be a kind, enlightened teacher to those customers.
Hmm.
And if you can assume that role, you're going to do really well in sales.
So be a student and a teacher. It's interesting, by the way, we're talking to leaders, and how many of you, if you could raise, I don't know how we raise our hands here, but if we're being honest, we get to the stage and we feel like, oh God, I can't be a student anymore. I have to be the authority. Everyone's
Right.
looking at me. So like they start to walk a little different, talk a little bit different, and it wears on your soul.
Yes.
But if you can embrace that duality of like I am a teacher and I'm a student. I'm both. Like you can be both
Yeah.
at the same time.
And here's a good book that I picked up recently, The Beginner's Mind.
Does that relate to what you were talking about earlier, embracing
Yeah, it's
the spirit and power of the beginner?
being a student is the beginner's mind. You want to be a student of your thoughts. You want to be a student of the world. And if you want to do something new, you need to let go of everything else and start fresh. And that is the power that everybody has. It's inside. And what our minds are trained in this digital age to go swipe next, next,
Mm,
next,
mm.
next. And what we need to learn is the now. What are we experiencing right now? What are we feeling right now? And that is all that counts.
Super interesting. I have a love-hate relationship with that. I do believe that there's such a power in now. There's such a if we can stop and actually look and see, like there's a lot that we can gain from the moment that we don't get when we're just moving too fast through things or swiping, as you're saying. And at the same time, I know that the culture of people that we're all trying to reach out to and connect with, they're doing this. They're swiping. And I love it was the mindset. I don't know if it was exactly Jim Henson, but I know that Sesame Street had their mindset was we're going to entertain and hopefully we'll teach. We're entertaining first,
Right.
and the hope is that while people are showing up for what they're here for, to be entertained, they're going to learn something in the process. And so it's like catering to the swipers and at the same time being the person who is still like, how can we straddle both of those worlds in your mind, Gerhard?
Well, I think we need to realize that we're human beings and not human doings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. So, in your mind? So let's just imagine. So grounding and getting back into the being instead of the doing, and not that it replaces the doing, but I think the being informs the doing. What would you say are some daily habits, some rituals, some things that we can connect to, so that we've defined what success is for ourselves, and we're getting traction towards that instead of just being the person playing like the whack-a-mole life where we're taking swings at everything and we're getting 1% better at everything, but there's no real momentum that's gained from
Right,
that. Like
right.
what habits and
A
rituals do
a
we?
lot of people start with, waking up and immediately turning on this iPhone and, seeing what's new, what's the weather, what is the stock market doing, or what emails, what messages, and that's not the way to start your day.
Mm-mm.
Um, Wayne Dyer said when I interviewed him, he wakes up in the morning and he said, I say thank you 3 times. Thank you for this day. He starts with gratitude. Um, one concept that I want to share with everybody is that if you want clarity in your day, you want to begin with silence. You don't want to chase data
Hmm.
because ultimately that data is going to haunt you and put you in a state of confusion and to me the morning is the time where it's like the buttons of a shirt. If you start with the wrong button, all the other buttons going to be wrong. So
Hmm.
you set yourself up for a chain of negative events, and I think gratitude sets the frequency for the day, and you success ultimately will come to you like the butterfly when you sit still.
Hmm. It's interesting, and maybe we can learn from all of this, from what we're doing with AI. And by the way, I am bullish on AI. I love AI as an enhancer, not a replacer.
Right.
And one of the things that like we all have been learning is that you can do anything through whatever your flavor of AI is, but it matters what you're inputting, right? The quality of the question determines the quality of the output.
Yeah,
Like
there's
if you're
a wonderful quote from Werner Heisenberg, the Nobel Prize winner and physicist, who said that nature does not reveal its secrets. It only responds to a method of questioning.
I mean, and that's like if we do anything better as leaders, and even salespeople, leaders, all of it, really, we really should be looking at the quality of our questions
Yeah,
and in the input instead of thinking about what you're doing with Chat GPT. What about, chat, whoever your name is, right? Put what the questions that you input to yourself create the output.
right,
And so we can begin to see life that way. And I love that even the word quest is hidden within the word question.
right,
So every
right,
quest begins with a question.
right.
So you're saying get still, listen, ask questions. Any other
Yeah,
rituals that
but
you've
also,
found?
I want the audience to do a little experiment, a little thought experiments, and have fun with ChatGPT. So let's say take a snippet from the conversation between Donnie and me, and put it in ChatGPT, maybe 100 words, or a conversation you have with somebody, with a client, and put it in there. And then you say, write a 600-word article that you are going to publish on LinkedIn based on those ideas that were discussed. And so this is the first task. And write it in a style like David Brooks from the New York Times, who has a very unique style. And then look at that. And it will educate you because David Brooks is going to elevate that content of the conversation. But then you take that same article and feed it back to ChatGPT and say, um, turn this into a comedy, turn this into a Seinfeld routine, and it will do it.
It will.
Or
Yeah.
George Carlin or John Cleese. And then you can take that and say, transform that into a song. Like George, I don't know, like Miley Cyrus, or or Charles Aznavour, whatever singer you like, and it will teach you that you can transform everything, including yourself.
Mm.
So use ChatGPT as a transformation tool for your own thinking, for to create a better version of you.
Oh, it's an accelerant. Yeah, for sure. Do you this is just I'm thinking purely AI. We have two kids, we have eight children, we have two of them left in school. And Gerhard, we've been able to do so many things. We have several experiments that I'm running. One of my sons works full time in my business, and we've been going from zero to, we'll see, 0 to 1 million on YouTube, and we're only strictly following exactly what the AI coach is telling us to do. And we are the amount that we've been able to increase the quality of what's happening, and actually the results has been astounding. And it tells you the truth if you ask it to. I guess when I look at this, and we have a little success story channel. I think I'm going to do one on you, by the way. So be on the lookout for that one. But what I'm noticing is that the distance from conception, from the idea to ideation and creation has drastically shrunken. Do
Right.
you see this? What do you think? Or like, what is this? What do you think this is going to do to education and the way that people learn in general, societally?
Well, I think that we are collectively building a better brain for humanity, and it's a free for all at this point. It's not very well regulated, but AI is not like learning a new language. AI is more about learning the possibilities of creating a new world. It is a transformation that we are only beginning to fathom and understand. We've done like 3 AI sales summits now, and we have another one coming up on September 25th and 26th, where we have people from McKinsey and Company, from Deloitte, from Forrester, all the analysts presenting their latest research. And I'm fascinated because in the beginning I thought, well, AI is a tool. It is not a tool. It is part of a strategy that brings us to a, a new frontier for humanity where we begin to understand ourselves better. And I feel the best is yet to come. There's going to be
Ah,
amazing
yeah,
innovations.
yeah, I agree. I listen. I've got one more question for you, and I want to get to questions from the audience because they've been putting them in there. And so, if you got any questions, put them in. We're going to get to them. So, my question is, it, I love salespeople. I love people who there's just there's a unique journey that they have to go on that I love the courage that they wake up with. I love the way they're solving problems and the way that they're forced to innovate and adapt to what the market is bringing. I want to know what excites you the most about this next generation of sales professionals, and what's one skill that you think is going to define the great ones from the rest?
Well, I'm very optimistic about the next generation because I'm in touch with professors that teach the next generation, like Dr. Stephanie Poyer. She's a PhD. She's teaching at Bryan University, sales and marketing, and she has done like analyzed 35,000 role plays, and I've seen some of the videos on how Gen Z is, stepping into the new role of sales. We have hired one of the graduates of a university in Ohio, and I recommend to all sales leaders out there, if you want great salespeople that are willing to learn and grow, tap into that network of sales universities that teach sales. They're all over the country. There are about 120 of those universities, Texas A&M, Miami. I mean, it's easy to find them, and you can even go there and interview people. They have recruiting days. So to me, the future belongs to those who can synthesize data, emotions, and insights into conversations that move people to act. Zig Ziglar once said that logic
You-
makes people think, emotions makes people act. And you can create with data the best educated person in the world, but their customer won't buy. Why?
Mm,
Because they don't feel it. They don't have that, or the salesperson does not have that emotional connection.
mm.
And it takes human effort to transform data into that energy and within that trusted relationship that makes people buy.
Wow. Wow. So synthesizing data into emotions that actually brings the ability to take action so that because people are feeling it. That is, and now I mean we have more available to us now than ever
Right.
to do that. We're not shooting from the hip. Who would have ever thought that this would come from the lips of a trained accountant? And yet here here we are. We have a couple of questions in here. Someone is asking, let's see, I don't have the who on this one. I'll get the person's name. He says, will AI eventually replace salespeople? What do you think?
I would say no. If you use AI, you're going to be in good shape as a salesperson. If you don't use it, then you want to look for another job.
Yes, that's almost any job, by the way. As someone I'm working with, it's like, hey, never hire one person, only hire the person that has 12 agents under them. You know, like if that person needs to be have at least 10 to 12 AI agents, so they have them to the power of 10.
Right.
Next one, do you believe one day that AI will be better and more effective than salespeople, or better at some things? I think is what they're getting at.
I would say yes. There's going to be an AI out there in the future that is going to be better than look at the radiologists. AI can analyze an X-ray better than a human. So, but there needs to be a safety net, and AI unchecked can really do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
AI is like still like a teenager that needs adult supervision.
Agreed. I'm curious, Gerhard, as I'm scouring through here. There's a lot of people that were like love the fact that you're being mission driven, and I know one of your buddies, John Murphy,
Oh,
said
John.
said when the mind wanders to the past or the future, the key is to recognize how your thoughts trigger your feelings right now. So it's almost like we're selling ourselves, according to what you just now mentioned with synthesizing. It's how you feel in any now moment that affects more of the same into your life. Is
Yeah.
it positive or
But
negative?
I think that
Just flaming you up there.
that
Yeah.
that is was one great lesson I got from Dr. David Burns, who wrote the book Feeling Good. And he explained in very simple terms that it's the thought that creates the feeling, not the other way around. So if you change your thoughts, you change your feelings.
Hmm.
And his book, Feeling Good, has been tested against uh, an antidepressant drug. And people that read and studied and followed the book, they had a greater success rate in curing depression and alleviating those negative thoughts than than the medication.
Wow. Feeling Good is the name
Yeah,
of that book. There was another one, as it's funny that you were mentioning. There's one called the placebo effect, and
yeah,
the author basically shows how when we think we're being healed of something, even if we're taking a sugar tablet, it's interesting that the power of the mind over the actual body
right.
with those things. It's super interesting. I'm curious. This is personally me. Y'all can throw your questions in. I'm curious. Is there an interview that you've ever given that either it was either your favorite or it stood out or you were like you were nervous going in to the interview? Do you have any interview stories of any of the greats that you've connected with?
Well, I was nervous in the beginning with just about every interview because I did not know how much time I would actually get when people say they have a half an hour or an hour. Something unexpected may happen. I was nervous interviewing Donald Trump. Um, I It took me like a year and a half to get to the point where his assistant Norma Federer uh, called me in the I sent her a box of Belgian chocolates and she called me back and she
Smart.
says, "God, what do you want?" I said, I'd like 20 minutes with the Donald." And she says, "Can you come on Tuesday at 1 o'clock?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be in New York." And flew up to New York. And I had read his book, The Art of a Deal, and I had like 40 questions. And she says, "You get a half an hour." And um, and then I had a fortuitous meeting the night before with the CMO of Kodak, who had actually just launched an underwater camera, a disposable camera, and he gave me one of the first models. So now I thought I used this as a leverage to create a relationship with Donald Trump. And so I walked in and I said, "Thank you for meeting with me. And I have a present that I've only one. You have two sons, but maybe you can give this to your younger son, Eric. This is the first underwater camera that Kodak has created." And he said, "That's really nice, and it broke the ice. And I started my interview. And after 10 minutes, he says, "I think you have enough for a cover story, right? Because I'm busy." And and I thought at this point, I have nothing to lose. I'm already here. I said, well, it's good enough for an inside story, not for a cover story, because I need more material. This is, I'm talking about 2,500 words, and now I have about maybe 1,200. And so I tried to explain it. He said, okay, go next. And then I also asked him about what's the secret to success? And he says, well, in business, you need to be a good idea man. You got to have great ideas. And fortunately, I have a lot of great ideas, but you also have to be a good implementer. There are a lot of people that
Mm,
have great ideas that can't implement if their life depended on it. And you have great implementers that have never a good idea. And he says, fortunately, I'm both. I'm a good idea man, I'm a good implementer. And I couldn't help myself uh, because I want to have fun. And I said, you're forgetting something. He says, what's that? I said, you're also very modest.
mm. Did he laugh?
He busted out laughing, right?
I love it. What's next for Gerhard? Like what's your next vision? That's from John Murphy. John, thanks for that because I want to know that too. Like where are we going next in your world?
Well, I'm a human being and not a human doing. I want to be better. I want to help more people. I want to contribute more. I want to have a bigger impact on those people that want me, that want my advice, and want to attend our conferences and learn because we need to earn the future by learning collectively and helping each other win.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Be and then do and then have. Stop being informed by what you want to have. Start being informed by who you want to be. We all have a design, and Gerhard, you have. I love that you've given us just this window from like this time capsule, like this that moves, this long exposure, and it's really cool that we can see the integrity of the whole thing looking through your stories. So thank you for that. Thank you for encouraging us because a lot of people are doom and gloom with the next this next group of salespeople and what's happening in the world of sales and AI, and
Somebody
we're all
once
afraid.
said is somebody once said is we do not know enough about the future to be a pessimist.
Right. That's a very well said.
And I
Very.
recommend for everybody out there become a reverse paranoid, which means that you think that the world is out to do you good.
Woo. Whoa. All right. Give us one challenge. Maybe that's the challenge you want to issue to the group, the leaders who are still here. There was that one you mentioned, feeding this transcript into AI. What's one thing you think that everyone could do to just get 2% better at leading and at living from this conversation, Gerhard?
Well, I think there's a relationship that is almost magical that's between living your life and dreaming. When you learn what your customers dream about, you practically have a path for sales success because people want you to help them fulfill their dreams. But the other magic that you cannot ignore is what is your dream? What's your biggest dream right now? What do you want more than anything else? And I want you to think about it, write it down, and go after and create milestones because you are here in this life to fulfill your dream. And Mary Kay said, so many people die with their music still unplayed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And that exercise, you could do that in 5 minutes, or you can do it in 5 hours, and you should be doing it all the time in your life. Gerhard, I'm so thankful that I got to stand in for the great Todd Duncan during this time. I feel like I've gotten to know you in such a neat and unique way. And I'm going to ask you, listen, in front of the millions of people who are still watching, will you allow me to do a YouTube short video about you and about your story? Will you approve it before I put? I'm going to do it anyway, but will you look at it before I put it out?
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you.
All right, it's a deal. You're going to be on the Treasure Bringer Story channel,
Thank
and
you for making it fun and joyful.
yeah, this has been fun. And once again, like, right, you're the Arnold Schwarzenegger of sales. I think we should just go ahead and go with that title. Maybe next time we go live.
So go to sellingpower.com and get a subscription to the magazine.
Let's go do it, guys. You're only
Or
going to get better.
sign up for our next conference.
Appreciate it, Gerhard.
Thank you,
Love all your
darling.
perspectives.